Welcome back to the lecture series in application of nanotechnology in agriculture. So, today we are talking about one of the case studies in last couple of classes of titanium dioxide. We have already seen it has agricultural applications. Now we are observing that the same material is having applications in diverse areas, including electronics, photoelectrochemical cell, splitting of water in a photoelectrochemical cell, by virtue of which it could be used for purification of water, production of hydrogen as a fuel. It is having amazing anti-fogging and self-cleaning property, because when photoexcited, its hydrophilicity become marvelous. It can self-clean itself when the light falls on it. So, it could be used as a coating material for vehicles, and then we observe that this could be used as dye-sensitized solar cells. So, let us look at a little bit now about the electronics which are involved in it. We will be talking about now electronic processes of titanium dioxide photocatalysis. This will be brief, electronic process of titanium dioxide photocatalysis. Okay. Now, when you talk about this, photocatalysis is widely used to describe the process in which acceleration of a reaction occurs. So, there is an acceleration. So, there is a reaction happening, and this reaction is getting accelerated when a material, usually a semiconductor, interacts with light of sufficient energy or of a certain wavelength. So, basically there is a semiconductor, this is your semiconductor. So, the semiconductor is interacting with light of certain wavelength or multiple wavelength. Okay. It is interacting with multiple or specific wavelength. While it interacts with light of sufficient energy to produce a reactive oxygen species or ROS. So, this semiconductor is producing ROS, or reactive oxygen, and you all are well versed with ROS. We have talked about CO2, cerium oxide, which scavenges ROS. Now we are talking about a material which generates ROS. So, having just give you a little bit of an overview of this concept, when we talk about ROS here. So, as I told you, ROS is a double-edged sword. On one hand, it could lead to inflammation and diseases. On the other hand, in human body itself, ROS could be used by the immune cells to fight against microbes. But then there is another aspect of ROS. So, what we have learned in biology is it could have detrimental effect, and or it could have negative, it could have positive effect. But in industry section, ROS could be used for destroying deadly organic waste. So, this ROS on a different fragment could be used for a totally different purpose. Okay. Now, coming back to the mechanism what we are talking about, which can lead to the photocatalytic transformation of a pollutant. So, this ROS is basically here we are talking about that whole pollutant disposal aspects of it. It must be noted that during the photocatalytic reaction at least two events must occur, okay, and this part is exceptionally important. There need for two events which must occur simultaneously in order for a successful production of ROS species to occur. What are those events? E1 and E2, okay, for successful production of ROS, which is reactive oxygen species. So, the two critical events involves where water which is absorbed in the material has to get oxidized, and the event 2 which I'll be talking now. So, the first event which needed to happen out here is, this is the event 1 where water is coming, and what it is doing is that oxidation of the dissociatively adsorbed H2O. This is the dissociatively adsorbed H2O by photogenerated holes. So, these are the photogenerated holes. So, these photogenerated holes exactly leads to the oxidation of the water, and the second event involves reduction of an electron acceptor, which is typically dissolved oxygen. Reduction of an electron acceptor, and which in this case is oxygen, which is a dissolved oxygen. Okay. So, this is the dissolved oxygen by photoexcited electrons. Okay. Photoexcited electrons. These reactions led to the formation of a hydroxyl. This whole thing leads to the formation of hydroxyl and superoxide radical anion. Hydroxyl and superoxide. So, hydroxyl and superoxide radical anions, which is essentially is your reactive oxygen species. It is clear that photocatalysis, implies photon assisted generation of catalytically active species rather than the action of light as a catalyst in a reaction. Okay. So, this part is important to understand. It is clear that when you talk about photocatalysis, implies photon assisted. This whole thing is photon assisted. So, photon assisted generation of catalytically active species. So, you are generating catalytically active species. Okay. So, these catalytically active species are basically photon generated. So, rather than the action of light as catalyst in a reaction. So, essentially what is to be highlighted is that light is only providing sufficient energy. One should realize light is just that mild energy which is needed. So, you have this light coming on a semiconductor material, and semiconductor material is ejecting out an electron. So, light is just providing that assistance. So, it could be provided by something else also. In order for that, it may be heat also, it could be something else also. Okay, but the semiconductor material need that small amount of energy to ensure that it generates an electron. Why this is important? If you look at it, and if you go back to when I was talking about photosynthesis, exactly the same thing. Is a visible light which is providing the energy to happen. And why it is called photosynthesis is that this is driven in terms of, it is assisted by light, and it is not sunlight, it could be any light. Okay. Photosynthesis, it is the light which is helping or providing the sufficient energy for the synthesis of the carbohydrate molecules. Exactly same way, just imagine in this center, instead of chlorophyll, which is nature's molecule for generation of photoexcited electrons. So, these are those photoexcited electrons. Now, just equate it with TiO2. So, in other words, then chlorophyll is also a semiconductor material, okay, and it has certain light where it generates an electron. So, this is that similarity I am trying to draw, and the end result is fairly the same. Okay. So, and that reactive oxygen species or the reactive electron is out here, that electron which is photoexcited. Now, if the initial photoexcitation process occurs in an adsorbate molecule which then interacts with the ground state of the catalyst substrate, the process is referred to as catalyzed photoreaction. If on the other hand, the initial photoexcitation takes place in the catalyst substrate and the photoexcited catalyst then interacts with the ground state adsorbate molecule, the process is called sensitized photoreaction. So, there are two concepts, catalyzed photoreaction and sensitized photoreaction. This catalyzed, if you wanted to go in depth, these are the terminologies you have to understand: catalyzed photoreaction and sensitized photoreaction. These are the two concepts when we talk about these kind of materials. Okay. Catalyzed photoreaction, if on the other hand the initial photoexcitation takes place in the catalyst substrate and the photoexcited catalyst then interacts with the ground state adsorbate molecule, the process is a sensitized photoreaction. And in most cases, heterogeneous photocatalysis refers to semiconductor photocatalysis or semiconductor sensitized photoreaction. Okay. So, in photocatalysis, if you look about it, light of energy greater than the band gap of semiconductor. This part is extremely important. Light having an energy greater than the band gap of the semiconductor. So, in titanium oxide, if you remember, when we talk about the rutile, we talked about it has a band gap of 3 to 3.2. It has 3 polymorphs and they vary from 3 to 3.2 electron volts. Okay. So, the light energy what has to be provided in photocatalysis, light of energy greater than the band gap of the semiconductor. So, the light energy H nu has to be greater, it has to be, light energy has to be greater than 3 to 3.2 electron volt. Okay. In case of anatase TiO2, the band gap is 3.2 electron volt. Therefore, UV light of wavelength around 387 nanometer is required, because this has more energy than 3.2. The absorption of the photon excites an electron to the conduction band. Okay. The absorption of the photon. So, you have the semiconductor material which is getting wavelength from, in that case what will happen, to repeat it, in the case of anatase TiO2, the band gap is 3.2, therefore, you needed a UV wavelength of 387 nanometer. The absorption of a photon excites an electron to the conduction band, which is ECB, which is a conduction band electron now, generating a positive hole in the valence band. Okay. In the valence band HVB, because valence band is losing an electron, therefore this becomes a positive. So now we have TiO2 plus H nu is generating a HVB, this is the valence band, this is the one, and plus an electron ECB. Okay. So this is in the conduction band and this is in the valence band. Okay. The charge carriers can be trapped. Now this part is extremely important to understand. The charge carriers can be trapped as Ti3 plus and O defect sites in TiO2 lattice. So titanium has this defect sites. So if you guys remember, when we talked about iron pyrite, I told you that iron pyrite has this stoichiometric defects. So much of these molecules come with a series of stoichiometric defects, surface defects, which could be identified by using X-ray photoelectron spectroscopy. And very interestingly, these defects could be utilized for its application. So defect is in a sense gives the material a positive flair in terms of its utability, usability and translatability. Okay. So coming back, so where I was, so I told you that TiO2 plus water plus light is generating combination electron and hole. Okay. And the charge carriers can be trapped as Ti3 plus and O minus defect site in the TiO2 lattice, or they can recombine, dissipating the energy, and this is another problem. They could even recombine. Electron and hole can recombine and they can dissipate the energy. So you have to prevent that recombination. Alternatively, the charge carrier can migrate to the catalyst surface and initiate redox reaction with adsorbate. Okay. Now this is what you are asking for. Alternatively, the charge carriers can migrate. So you have the charge carriers. So these are the charge carriers what you are having. So these charge carriers are adsorbed. Charge carriers can be trapped into Ti3 plus or O minus sites, or charge carrier may recombine and dissipate the energy. Now what will happen? Alternatively, the charge carrier can migrate to the catalyst surface and initiate redox reaction with adsorbate. Okay, and adsorbate has water. Okay, positive holes can oxidize OH minus or water at the surface. Okay, so positive holes can oxidize OH minus of water or water, because when you talk about water we are talking about H plus and OH minus. Okay. So now this OH minus is transformed to produce OH radical, which is hydroxyl radical. We talked about it just a few minutes back, which are extremely powerful oxidant. This is one powerful oxidant because we are generating ROS, reactive oxygen species. Similarly, the hydroxyl radical can subsequently be oxidized. OH could subsequently be oxidized. Okay, can subsequently oxidize the organic species. So this is when you talk about the organic pollutants or any other stuff, oxidized organic species with mineralization producing mineral salts like CO2 and water. Okay. So now if I, so this is that reactive oxygen species what we are creating, ECB minus in the conduction band plus HVB plus, which is in the valence band. You have the energy, and H2O plus H in the valence band is generating OH dot plus a proton, which you could see as the H plus out there. Now on the other hand, the next set of reaction where you have oxygen plus ECB conduction band generate another free radical or another reactive oxygen species. Now, here is the next reaction where you are having OH dot plus the pollutant is generating H2O plus CO2. The other reaction could be O2 dot minus plus H plus generating OOH, or OOH plus another OOH could create hydrogen peroxide. This will remind you of the role of pyrite, where it generates trace amount of this O2 dot minus plus a pollutant. This is where you are destroying the extremely harmful organic waste, H plus pollutant generating CO2 plus H2O. Now, if you look at it, there are a series of reactions which are happening here, and these are just a handful of them. So, electron in the conduction band can be rapidly trapped by the molecular oxygen. So, electron in the conduction band could be rapidly trapped by the molecular oxygen adsorbed on the titania particle, which is reduced to form superoxide radical, which is O2 dot minus. Okay, and that may further react with H plus to generate hydroperoxyl radical. This is called hydroperoxyl radical, and further electrochemical reduction yields H2O2, as I showed you in the reaction. Okay. These reactive oxygen species may also contribute to the oxidative pathway, such as degradation of pollutants. Okay. So you realize that same titanium dioxide, which has agricultural role, has now showing tremendous promise in photoelectrochemical cells. So I'll close in here. In the next class, we'll go a little bit further before closing down. Okay. Thank you.